Right, we're back again on the Danarm 2-man chainsaw. Now, just a quick recap. I've stripped it down, cleaned the points, it had spark, kind of built it back up, and then it lost spark. Tested the ignition coil, and it lost spark, it was dead. Coil's dead. So, I've got all the bits to rebuild the ignition, so I've gone rebuild it. So, let's get started. So, set the flywheel off. So that's your coil, ignition coil, and then that's your points. And then behind there, I hope, is the condenser. Now I have to make a spacer to go between there to fit the new coil, because the new coil is a lot shorter, but it will work. So I think to make it easier, I'll just take the whole back plate off, which I think is that nut there and that nut there. If you haven't got locking tabs up, they've been hammered over. So yeah, I'll take them off, and then hopefully the whole plate will come off, and that'll give us access to the nuts and the screws that hold it all together, and then be able to take that off. So let's set up there. It's loose. That was that locking tab that just fell off. So there we have it. So that then gives us access to these. Villiers, what's that say? Magneto. Made in England. So it's got a 37 stamp there. So I believe behind there is the condenser. So we'll replace the wires and give it a clean up or whatever. So I'll just move some bits about, and then we'll start stripping it down. So I've got the back plate in the vise. So I think first I'm going to take out these two screws here, and there's two there as well, so I'll take them out. Right, so I've got all the nuts off the back. So this It's loose. There you go. That's it. And then the nuts for that there, it's just that one there, that one, yeah, so I'll take that out and then hope for the condenser. Still tight on this side. Let's give it a love tap. So it's loose, it's just, I think that screw's also holding it in. Nope. Still tight. Right, before I take these out and I forget, that goes to underneath there, which is where the condenser is, and that one that went to the coil goes to the one on the left. See, I've never seen points like these, not on Villiers. Usually they're the aluminium type. I haven't got any to hand. Just two insulators, there's no screws. Right. I'll just put them screws back so I don't lose them. Yeah, I don't know how I missed it, but there's another nut there that I didn't see. Not very clever in me. So I'll undo that and then hopefully it should just pop straight off. Oh, the stud's spinning with the nut. And you can't get to the top. Maddie. Now that should, yeah, there we go. I've never seen a Villiers condenser like that. It's like soldered in with the studs. I'm in two minds whether to replace that actually. Because the coil failed. I'm really tempted to just replace the coil and keep the condenser and just see what happens. The points are good. And then obviously there's the coil. And sometimes they used to number these as well with the date, but I can't see it. This one screws off. It just sits into there. Right, so this is the new coil that I've got. You get them on eBay. Now that's the longest one you can get, well, that I can find anyway. Now, if you can compare the difference, especially the length. So it does work, you just got to do a bit of modifications. So you've got to make bushes, because obviously that doesn't fit in there and it's not long enough. So there you go. Right, so I've just made the spacers. Obviously one end goes in there, each goes in their own end like that. And then I'm going to cut it in half and then probably drill it out to the size of the end of that coil, and then that'll space it hopefully. And if it's too long, obviously I can just make it shorter, but that's the next step. Right, so there's both the bushings made for the coil. So now I've just got to drill them out to fit the shaft of the new coil. bushing's finished. So that should go in there like that. And then the coil goes inside there. Let's get rid of the like so. I might have to do a bit of fettling, you know, I might have to press them down a little bit, but that's the idea. Right, so after a few attempts and a fair bit of fettling, it's finally fitted. So as you can see, the bushings are on either side, and the tab lines up pretty much perfectly where the HT lead goes. So next I need to make a connection from there with a wire that goes to the condenser. Now these coils have a little tiny Phillips screw head on it. Now the temptation is to obviously unscrew it and put connection on, but 9 times out of 10 the head of the screw either strips off or the head snaps off, and then you can't use the coil. So I tend to just put an eyelet over it, solder it over, and then tape it up. That's the best way I find to do it, because every time you try and remove it, it just snaps the head off, and then you can't do anything with it. Right, so that's my piece of wire crimped. Got a connection on it. Now the plan is to solder that onto there, and then connect the other end of the wire onto that connection there, which goes to the condenser. So I'll do that. Right, I've just had an absolute disaster that proves my point. I tried to solder on to the head of the screw, and I put a bit of heat onto it, and the head of the screw snapped off, like I said it would. So I've had to jam a wood screw into there and then snap the head off, which will make it easy to solder. And I've just tested for continuity, and it gives a good reading. So fingers crossed. Not ideal, but you know, what can you do? So I'm going to solder this up now. I'm also going to connect it for the kill switch as well, which is there. There's a connection there for the kill switch. It's not the prettiest, but I beefed it up a bit just because it's obviously just a wood screw screwed into it, so I thought I'd give it a bit more. So I'll do a quick test now, continuity, see what we get. Check it's still alright. So one of these wires is going to go to that connection there, which is for the stop button or the kill switch. So I'll probably use this wire because it's a bit shorter. So that'll go on there. And then this wire goes through, I think it goes through there. To that screw there, goes to there. That's what you also need to do as well, stab a hole in your hand with your screwdriver. That hurt. Not good. That's what it looks like. See, the points can still move. Now I'm going to try it with the original condenser. I can't see why it'd go bad, but you know, if it needs to be replaced, I can replace it. I've got one. So now I need to screw it back together. So put them nuts on the back of there and screw it all back together. Yeah, lovely. Right, so there it is, hopefully all hooked up correctly. I've also just hooked up the kill switch wire, which goes on a tab on the back of there. So now I think it's ready to fit back on the engine. So which way it goes? Put these locking tabs back on. Right, so after many attempts, I can't get it to spark. That's its third coil. That was the coil where the end of the screw head snapped off, so I put a wood screw in it and soldered to that. I rebuilt it back up and it still had no spark. So then I tried a new condenser. I've tried many condensers. I've got some condensers. I even got brand new ones just would not spark. So then I thought, right, well, it must be because of the screw, bad connection. So then I bought a brand new coil, tried that, and then I tried it with the spacers that I made on the lathe. Wasn't too impressed with them, so then I made another set of spacers. Which are a lot better fitting. Still no spark. So then I messed about with the wiring more, adjusted the points, and then it'd only spin and it'd only spark a very weak spark when you're spinning it with a drill. So I've come to the conclusion that the coil, the brand new coils that you buy, are too small, because that's the original coil that came out of the saw, and that's the ones that you buy now. So I've done a bit of research, and the closest coil I can find that they use the Villiers engine is a British Seagull, the outboard engines, which is that. So that's the original coil that came out of it. That's the Seagull coil, so it's pretty much the same length, maybe a little bit shorter, but the shaft diameter is slightly shorter. So that's possibly option number one, and I believe that to be a good coil, so that's that. And option number two is, this is the back plate off of Allen size. Now luckily it's the exact same size coil, so I'm hoping I won't have to make bushes. I can just stick that straight into the saw, and hopefully that'll have spark, because otherwise I'll have to try the British Seagull coil, and if that doesn't work then I'll have to think of something else. So for the meantime I'm gonna take this coil out of here and stick it in there. So as you can see, they're the same coil. So fingers crossed, and we'll put it in and it'll work. I've had this off about 15 times. Yeah, so they're the spacers that are made to take up the shaft diameter, and then obviously the inside of the black plugs. Hopefully I won't actually need them. One's a little bit tighter, so I'll just quickly disconnect that out of the way, and then the new coil fits straight in there. Lovely. So there's the coil installed. I just had to do a little bit of fettling. I had to drill out the holes for them screws, just a fraction over, and they weren't actually drilled straight, they were on a bit of an angle, but so I've drilled them out a tiny bit more and it fits now, nice and snug. So I'll get the nuts back on and get it back installed. Just got a wire, solder and wire up the connection, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get a spark. Right, so there's a solder connection there, and then that goes to the points. That connection goes to the condenser. So we'll set the back plate back on and give it a test. Moment of truth. Oh, yes! Oh, yes! Oh, fuck yes! Oh, can you see that? Oh, thank God. That's literally 2 weeks' work trying to get that to spark. before with the smaller coil, you had to spin it at full as fast as you could just to get a very weak spark, and then this is just I'll shut the window, I'll blank off the window, and then it's a bit darker. I don't know, because this impact's got a light on it, so it shines a light where you... Right. There we go. Nice and blue. Oh yeah. So obviously if you span it over with a cord, it'd flick. Oh, magic. Much better spark. Oh, what a relief. So luckily, I've still got the seagull coil, which is just a little bit shorter, but I imagine that would have worked as well. So there's an option if you've got one of these. I'm just so happy. Right, I can move on now to the fuel side of things, and then we'll go for a run.